Oppenheimer said, "Close your eyes for 2 minutes and your neurons will recover." Have you ever wondered if a mere 2 minutes of silence, just you, your breath, and the stillness behind your closed eyelids, could truly spark a profound change in your mind? Have you ever caught yourself in the frenzy of daily life, longing for the briefest pause that might revive your lagging focus or soften your mounting stress? So, you're in good company. For decades, people have stumbled upon small acts of mental rest, suspecting they hold hidden power. And according to a provocative claim linked to J. Robert Oppenheimer, yes, that Oppenheimer who ushered in the atomic age, simply closing your eyes for a couple of minutes can work wonders for your neurons, priming them to bounce back from fatigue, stress, and cognitive overload. Stay with me until the very end of this story, because I'll reveal how to harness this technique in a way that not only rejuvenates your mental circuitry but also ties back to the same level of awe and respect for the unknown that Oppenheimer himself held when he gazed upon the secrets of the atom. By the final moments, you'll see how 2 simple minutes might become your personal reset button, bridging 20th century nuclear physics and the 21st century quest for inner balance. It may sound peculiar to tie Oppenheimer, the brilliant but tormented mind behind the Manhattan Project, to something as gentle as a 2-minute mental pause. After all, Oppenheimer is famously associated with the harnessing of nuclear fission, the creation of the first atomic bombs, and that haunting quote about becoming death, the destroyer of worlds, which he borrowed from Hindu scripture. He was a man of monumental intellect and moral quandary, forever wrestling with the ramifications of unleashing such unprecedented destructive power. How, then, do we connect him with a soothing, healing practice that asks us to close our eyes and cradle our neurons back to vitality? To understand this puzzle, we need to delve into the lesser-known facets of Oppenheimer's life. Yes, he was the theoretical physicist who guided Los Alamos to the successful test of the first atomic bomb, but he was also a voracious thinker about everything from Eastern philosophy to quantum mechanics, from classical literature to the intricacies of human consciousness. In his later years, burdened by guilt, political backlash, and personal reflection, Oppenheimer displayed an increased curiosity about the interplay between mind, matter, and the deeper forces that shape human potential. Though he never penned a treatise titled, "Close Your Eyes for 2 Minutes," anecdotes and recollections from colleagues suggest he occasionally spoke of short mental intervals, micro-retreats of the mind, that could break the cycles of tension inherent in high-stakes, high-stress environments. Consider the environment at Los Alamos during the Manhattan Project. Scores of brilliant scientists toiled around the clock, racing to solve the nuclear puzzle before Nazi Germany could do the same. The pressure was unimaginable, the stakes towering. Working in such intensity can degrade mental clarity, and Oppenheimer, straddling the roles of theoretical genius and project leader, saw how small breaks, literal moments of stepping away, proved essential for breakthroughs. There were stories of him stopping a heated chalkboard session to gaze into the desert, eyes half closed in quiet reflection, then returning with a fresh perspective. In his cryptic, poetic way, he hinted that giving the mind a short sabbatical from stimulation triggered a rejuvenation of its problem-solving capacity. Decades later, others would echo these observations, linking them with the concept that the brain, not the bomb, might be humanity's most potent force for creation or destruction. So what exactly happens in those 2 minutes if you close your eyes? Modern neuroscience, which has come far since Oppenheimer's era, offers clues. The visual system alone devours a sizable chunk of the brain's resources, constantly processing the avalanche of sensory data around us. Light, color, movement, shape. When you close your eyes, you relieve the brain's visual cortex of this heavy load, letting it slip into a quieter state. Neurons throughout your cortical networks then have a chance to shift from the high-alert processing of external stimuli to a more default mode, often linked to introspection, memory consolidation, or subtle forms of creativity. If you couple that eye closure with mindful breathing or gentle focus, you effectively invite your sympathetic nervous system to dial down. Cortisol levels can drop, heart rate may stabilize, and a wave of physiological calm can help flush out the biochemical markers of tension. As a result, the brain emerges from these micro-recesses with sharper clarity, deeper resilience, and yes, a modest but meaningful measure of recovery. It's not that Oppenheimer discovered a secret that no one else had thought of. Yogis, mystics, and spiritual contemplatives have long insisted that short intervals of inward focus can refresh the psyche. However, Oppenheimer's intellectual lineage, bridging quantum physics and philosophical nuance, gave a unique authority to the notion that such small interventions might hold profound significance. He recognized that if a fleeting, subatomic event can rearrange the course of scientific history, perhaps fleeting acts of mental rest can reorder our personal realities. In that sense, his rumored statement, "Close your eyes for 2 minutes and watch your neurons recover," carries an echo of that cosmic humility he so often displayed when remarking on the incomprehensible scales of the universe. But how do we fold this into our modern hustle, where we exist in a swirl of digital notifications, constant busyness, and eroding mental well-being? Imagine you're at your desk, bombarded by tasks, your phone chiming every few minutes, your to-do list a coiled serpent of anxiety. In that moment, you recall Oppenheimer's 2-minute rule, and you give yourself the permission to step away from the screen. You sit quietly, close your eyes, let your breath settle, and mentally observe whatever thoughts bubble up without latching onto them. You might start with tension in your shoulders, swirling worries about deadlines, or a swarm of regrets. But after a minute or so, your prefrontal cortex might relax its hypervigilance, your limbic system might de-escalate, and you sense a subtle shift. When you open your eyes again, your perspective has shifted, however slightly, allowing you to meet your tasks with renewed calm or even a spark of insight. Multiply these micro-breaks across a week or a month, and you start to see tangible benefits. Fewer headaches, clearer focus, less emotional reactivity, maybe a dash of creativity that had been stifled. That's the essence of neurons recovering. It's not a dramatic flourish where your entire neural network reboots in 120 seconds, solving all your life's woes. Instead, it's a gentle but potent realignment, a reminder that your brain needs and thrives on the periodic quiet that a short eye closure can bring. If you're skeptical, think of the phenomenon of power napping, which some corporations now encourage. Even a 10 or 20-minute doze can significantly boost cognitive performance. Oppenheimer's approach is even briefer, not a full nap but a microslice of near-total sensory respite. This might be perfect for environments where a formal nap is impossible or frowned upon. Let's pose our first question to you, dear reader, for reflection or for the comments. In your typical day, how often do you allow yourself even a single minute with eyes closed, phone away, and thoughts unhurried? If that frequency is nearly zero, do you suspect that reintroducing these micropauses could help your mental clarity or reduce stress? Now, let's consider how Oppenheimer's notion might link to the bigger tapestry of personal well-being. Our brains do not merely process information. They also store emotional patterns, shape our sense of self, and knit together experiences into a coherent narrative. If we never step away from the external stimuli, never quiet the chatter of demands and responsibilities, these processes can overload us. We risk losing the forest for the trees, becoming a worn-out machine that churns out tasks but never glimpses the bigger picture. Oppenheimer, burdened by the knowledge he helped create a weapon of vast destructive capability, saw in these quiet intervals a chance to reflect on moral and existential questions. While we may not wrestle with cosmic guilt in the same way, we each bear moral and emotional burdens. 2 minutes of stillness can be a daily anchor that fosters moral clarity and self-awareness, or at least halts the reflex to be in perpetual motion. Let's turn to some historical anecdotes to ground this concept. Multiple accounts reveal that in the intense months leading to the Trinity test, Oppenheimer would sometimes step away from the labs, find a solitary vantage point in the New Mexico desert, and simply stare at the horizon. Although these episodes might last longer than 2 minutes, colleagues noted how he'd return with a calm, almost otherworldly composure, sometimes offering a solution to a technical impasse. In these moments, he wasn't simply daydreaming. Perhaps his mind was spontaneously shifting from outward problem-solving to an inward, integrative mode. Years later, he'd hint that the mind, like matter, rearranges itself under the simplest interventions. If so, these glimpses in the desert might be the embryonic version of the 2-minute rule, a scaled-down approach anyone can implement, minus the dramatic southwestern landscape. In our age of evidence-based approaches, you might wonder, Is 2 minutes truly enough to register a measurable change in the brain's physiology? Modern research on mindfulness suggests that even short bursts of meditation or quiet rest can lower heart rate, galvanize alpha brainwave activity, and reduce subjective stress. Some studies show that just a minute or two of conscious breathing can curb the stress response. The difference between 0 minutes and 2 minutes can be profound. Over time, building a routine of these breaks fosters stronger neural pathways for self-regulation, which can lower the long-term risk of hypertension, anxiety disorders, and even cognitive decline. So while the phrase neurons recover might not be official neuroscientific jargon, it's a poetic statement capturing a phenomenon validated by modern science. One might object that Oppenheimer, a brilliant but tortured soul, was hardly a poster child for mental well-being. He died with lingering regrets and a sense of political betrayal. Yet, if anything, that underscores how crucial these small mental resets can be, especially for individuals under immense pressure. Perhaps had he integrated them more thoroughly or discovered a formal practice akin to meditation, he might have found more inner peace. We can only speculate. Still, his partial endorsement of short eye closure intervals is all the more poignant coming from someone intimately familiar with enormous burdens. Now let's pivot to the question: how might we refine or adapt this 2-minute rule to modern lifestyles? A lot depends on context. You might be a busy parent with kids clamoring for attention, an office worker stuck in back-to-back Zoom calls, or a student juggling classes and part-time jobs. The universal principle is that at least once every few hours, maybe more often if you can manage it, you slip away from external stimuli. You could step outside for a breath of fresh air, or remain at your desk but turn away from your screen, letting your eyelids fall gently. Set a timer if you must so you're not glancing at the clock. Then watch your breath, or simply notice the internal swirl of mental static. Resist the urge to fidget with your phone. After 2 minutes, you open your eyes. The world is the same, but your vantage is fractionally changed. If you do this repeatedly, you might see a cumulative shift in focus, calm, and emotional resilience. This leads to an interesting synergy with other well-being practices. If you're also mindful about your posture, hydration, or taking short walks, layering on these micro eye closures can amplify the benefits. Oppenheimer's suggestion stands as a minimal, flexible approach that pairs well with everything from yoga to the Pomodoro technique. Indeed, the Pomodoro approach, where you work intensely for 25 minutes and break for 5, could incorporate a 2-minute eyes closed ritual that might turbocharge your mental reset between tasks. Let's slip in our second question for reflection or for the comments. If you had to schedule a daily 2-minute mental reset at a specific time or times, maybe after lunch or mid-afternoon, or before you leave work, when would it most benefit your lifestyle and why? Shifting from practicality to a more philosophical angle, Oppenheimer's statement also speaks to the tension between cognition and humility. Closing your eyes is, in a sense, an act of trust. Trust that the world won't collapse if you're not vigilantly scanning it for 2 minutes. For those of us who feel perpetually on guard, it's a radical statement. I can let go for a moment. Oppenheimer understood the mania of trying to control every variable, just as he tried to orchestrate a labyrinth of nuclear equations. Yet the final breakthroughs often arose from letting the unconscious mind swirl, knitting together insights beyond the scope of conscious brute force. This aligns with modern creativity research, which often finds that downtime or incubation periods foster leaps of insight. So in a sense, these 2 minutes can also be a microlab for incubating new ideas, refreshing your creativity, or bridging conceptual gaps. Consider how the principle resonates in quantum physics too. Observing a system influences its state. If you constantly observe the external world, your mind is locked in that observational state. However, when you momentarily close your eyes, you shift from observer to introspector, letting the wave function of your mental process evolve in a quieter domain. While this might be more metaphor than strict physics, it captures a subtle truth. Stepping out of the observational frenzy can free your mental processes to reconfigure. Oppenheimer, intimately tied to quantum theory, might have appreciated that parallel. One might ask, what if I can't calm my mind in 2 minutes? My thoughts race even more the moment I close my eyes. Indeed, that's normal for some. The solution is not to force emptiness of thought, but to observe the mental noise with a kind of gentle curiosity. Even if your mind is a riot, you're still giving your visual cortex a rest and letting your body shift posture. Over time, you might find the swirling diminishes, or you might glean patterns in your restless mind that prompt you to address underlying anxieties or tasks. Oppenheimer was no stranger to mental restlessness, and he believed even partial respite was beneficial. You don't need a blissful blank mind, just a shift from outer to inner focus. Let's color the story with one more historical detail. Near the end of his life, Oppenheimer served as the director of the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. There, in an environment dedicated to pure thought, he watched mathematicians, physicists, and philosophers wrestle with grand ideas. Many discovered that stepping away from chalkboards, sitting quietly in a lounge or strolling through the wooded paths, sparked revelations. Some recounted how Oppenheimer would gently urge them to pause, reflect, or spend a moment in quietness. Though he rarely elaborated, legend has it that in informal conversation, he quipped that 2 minutes can unscramble an hour of confusion. It might be apocryphal, but it fits the essence of his approach. The mind can resynthesize information in short intervals of restful introspection. The question remains, how do we adopt such a practice in a lasting way, rather than as a fleeting novelty? The key is routine. Many find that pairing the 2-minute eye closure with existing transitions helps cement the habit. For instance, before you start your car engine for a commute, or right after you finish a meeting, or as soon as you wash your lunch dishes, you anchor it to a daily cue. This approach, grounded in habit-forming science, ensures you don't forget or procrastinate. Over a few weeks, it becomes second nature. The mind anticipates these mini-sabbaticals, so you slip into them seamlessly, reaping the neuronal respite Oppenheimer championed. Admittedly, we're layering a lot onto the shoulders of a single rumored statement from a man who lived decades ago. Did Oppenheimer literally say, "Close your eyes for 2 minutes and your neurons will recover"? Perhaps not verbatim, but from the mosaic of his life, we can glean that he believed in the potency of short mental breaks and the synergy between quiet reflection and profound insight. He observed it in himself and in his colleagues, especially in the crucible of the Manhattan Project. The phrase "neurons will recover" is our modern spin, capturing the gist of how the brain, so battered by incessant stimuli, can bounce back if given a sliver of peace. By now, you might be itching for a more concrete, step-by-step method to put this Oppenheimer-inspired concept into practice. Let's outline a simple protocol you can try today. First, identify a time block. Let's say every 2 hours, or at least 3 times throughout your day. Second, find a stable, safe spot where you can close your eyes without worry. For instance, your desk, a quiet corner, or even a restroom stall if no other private space is available. Third, set a timer on your phone or watch for exactly 2 minutes. Mute your phone or put it on silent so that it won't distract you in that brief interval. Fourth, close your eyes softly. Let your attention rest on your natural breathing without forcing any particular pattern. Thoughts will come, let them pass. If you get pulled into a chain of thought, gently return your focus to breathing. Fifth, when the timer beeps, open your eyes. Notice if you feel any shift in mental tempo. You might label it subtle at first, but over repeated practice, you'll often find you emerge more composed, less frazzled, occasionally with an aha about something you've been ruminating on. Lastly, do a quick check. Are you calmer? Did you glean any insight or sense any tension drop? Jot it down if you want to track progress. Over days, you might find your overall mood or productivity creeping upward. The biggest challenge is sustaining it. Like any beneficial habit, it can fade if overshadowed by urgent tasks. But if Oppenheimer's life teaches us anything, it's that the greatest breakthroughs can arise in fleeting pauses. And if a mind as relentlessly engaged as his recognized the value of stepping back, that's a powerful endorsement for the rest of us. In a world swirling with more stimuli than Oppenheimer's era ever saw, we might need these micro-exits from reality more than ever. One last anecdote cements the point. In the final years of Oppenheimer's life, he was embroiled in controversies over security clearances and political loyalties, culminating in a humiliating hearing that stripped him of certain privileges. During that tumult, he retreated more often into reflective silence, sometimes speaking of how only in silence could he sense the shape of his regrets and hopes. Although this context was fraught, it underscores the recurrent theme. In times of crisis, the mind begs for intervals of quiet. 2 minutes may not solve your crises, but it can be a lifeline that stabilizes you enough to face them with renewed perspective. We've woven a rich tapestry: Oppenheimer's nuclear background, the neuroscience of eye closure, the rhythms of mental rest, and the practical steps to incorporate it. Let me finish by reminding you that though Oppenheimer wore the mantle of father of the atomic bomb, he also carried the weight of that role, forging in him a unique appreciation for the delicate interplay of knowledge, power, and moral reflection. In urging a simple action, close your eyes for a short time, he was, in a sense, giving us a paradoxical gift. From the man who dealt with energies that could level entire cities comes an invitation to a gentle technique that helps us manage the energies swirling in our own minds. Maybe that's the final lesson. That tremendous power, be it nuclear or personal, demands intervals of stillness to remain harnessed, wise, and constructive rather than chaotic. So now, as we near the end of this journey, I'll pose the final question for your comment or private reflection. If, over the next 2 weeks, you committed to closing your eyes for 2 minutes every day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, what specific change do you hope to see in your mental or emotional well-being? Articulating that desired outcome might guide you to notice the incremental improvements that often slip under the radar. And there you have it, the heart of the claim that Oppenheimer said, "Close your eyes for 2 minutes and your neurons will recover." While the exact wording might be apocryphal, the principle aligns with everything we've gleaned about short mental resets, the synergy of quiet reflection, and the sheer necessity of giving our overstimulated minds a break. Whether you're a student grappling with exams, a professional juggling deadlines, or a parent navigating chaos, you can test this method for yourself. Let these small intervals of darkness be your personal reset button, your chance to revolve from tension back to clarity, from overload to balance. If you keep at it, you might discover that your brain isn't just an organ. It's a dynamic, adaptive cosmos, capable of renewal far beyond your expectations, simply by granting it 2 minutes of refuge every now and then. That, in the end, might be the quiet miracle that Oppenheimer, for all his towering intellect, glimpsed in those desert moments of hush, whispering to us across the decades. In a realm of unstoppable atomic power, never underestimate the unstoppable resilience of your own mind.